Hi everybody, another teaching toolbox for you. This one's a little more off topic from what we've been kind of talking about, but I think that it's one that many of you guys actually deal with really a lot, because I know many of you guys are leading small groups, you're leading community groups, you've got maybe your kids' classes that you're doing, or whatever it might be, and it's this issue of the uncomfortable silence. Yes, the dreaded, uncomfortable silence, the one that we all just, we have nightmares about before we go to teach or lead some kind of a small study or whatever, that maybe it follows a question like, well, what do you guys think? And then, you see the tumbleweed start going through the living room, or you hear the crickets, or maybe the jukebox just all of a sudden goes, and it's just dead silent. And everyone's kind of looking at each other, and it's getting hotter in the room, and all this stuff that we all face and deal with, and we dread it, and rightly so. Sometimes it can be a real momentum deflator in our group time, and it's a bummer. But I wanted to share with you guys some things that I've done, not to necessarily avoid the uncomfortable silence, because really sometimes that's just how it is, but how to get through it without it really sucking out all the momentum. So the first thing that I always do, if it's a new group of people, I've never said this in front of them before, is here's what will kind of happen with me, is I'll have the group, I'll ask the question, go through the homework, whatever it might be, and I'll say, okay, so what do you guys think about that? And I'll let a few seconds go by, and most of the time it's just really quiet, people are shy, they don't really know what to say. And so what I'll always do is, after a few seconds, if I can tell it's probably not going to change, I will always put people at ease by saying this. I'll say, don't worry about me, I don't mind the uncomfortable silence. Okay, now that sounds really simple, kind of silly, but just the very fact that I acknowledge the uncomfortable silence, and that I'm telling them, don't feel uncomfortable. Okay, let's have silence, but just not uncomfortable silence. Silence isn't bad. It's uncomfortable silence we don't like. So let's take the uncomfortableness out of it by just telling them, just so you guys know, I'm not uncomfortable, so you shouldn't be either. And here's the reason why I tell people that I'm not uncomfortable. A lot of times I'll say that, and I'll tell them, I know that you guys need time to think. Okay, I just dropped this big question on you, whatever it might be. Do you think all babies go to heaven? Or why does God allow war? Or whatever it might be. We ask this big question. We think that people are supposed to answer in a split second, but that's not the case. Most people, just like you, are very afraid to speak out publicly, especially when it's their opinion on something so weighty, such as God's Word, or something like that. So don't expect them to have quick answers. Let them think. And so I even tell them, I'll say, I don't mind uncomfortable silence. I know that you guys need time to think, so just take your time. Think through it, and if there's something you'd like to share, go ahead and share it. If not, we'll move on. And so I really try to disarm the uncomfortableness just by saying that. The other thing I do is I smile. I try to smile through the whole thing. I try to kind of ease the tension. Sometimes I'll throw out this little joke that really does get overplayed. I try to not do it all that often, but it's just a little joke of when people don't, respond, you just say something like, okay, now, not all you guys at once, just to kind of get people, laughing a little bit and acknowledging again that there is this uncomfortableness in the room. So sometimes I'll even combine them together. I'll say, not everyone at once, kind of get people laughing a little bit, and then I'll tell them, hey, just so you guys know, seriously, I'm not uncomfortable, so take your time, think through your answer, maybe write it down first and then read your answer, whatever it might be. Now, in the context of your community groups in particular, or if you go to a small group or a Bible study somewhere, one thing that's really helpful is to, if your people are doing their homework ahead of time, is to ask the question differently. Say, what did you write down on that particular question? Because then they can just read it, and that's a lot easier than just kind of coming up with a new answer. So you can kind of get conversation going by asking them to read what they've already written down, because that's just much, much easier. And then one of the last things I'll do when I have this time is I always try to acknowledge what someone said before I move on to the next person. So rather than just saying, okay, cool, and what else? Because you don't want to, because if you do that, you're really discouraging people. Because they just shared, you didn't really say anything positive, you didn't affirm their observation, you just moved on to the next person, and that's gonna really hinder future discussions, because people are like, well, gosh, if I say something stupid, he's just gonna move on. I'm gonna feel like a dummy. So whenever someone eventually does share, you affirm it, as long as it's good and true and it's not unbiblical or whatever. But you affirm it, you thank them, for actually sharing, and then before you move on, you want to do those things first, because that'll kind of get people a little bit of courage to say, oh, okay, well, maybe I should share, because mine was kind of along the lines of hers, and he just acknowledged it, so gosh, maybe I'm not way off track. So it encourages other people to see that, and it encourages future discussion as well. So anyway, that's just a super practical one that I think that many of you guys probably face and probably dread, and so hopefully just that little tiny tip can help you just get through that a little bit easier. So anyway, you guys have a awesome day. Have a great time teaching. Enjoy those uncomfortable silences. Keep in mind that people are thinking during that uncomfortableness, so let them have time to think. All right, you guys, God bless you all. See you soon.